So you see this transition from Babylon to another kingdom, Medo-Persia, to a third kingdom of bronze, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
Now we come to the thighs, which are bronze. This is the Greek Empire.
That third kingdom is also mentioned exactly in Daniel chapter 8. It's the kingdom of Greece, or as it says in the Bible, Grecia. Okay? So, Babylon, then Medo-Persia, then Greece.
In other words, there is no room for interpretation here. It just labels it. So you see, there we have a historical anchor point. We know that Daniel is using these symbols, whether different kinds of metals, parts of a big image, or different animals, to refer to a succession of empires which come up and which particularly dominate the Middle East and the territory of God's people.
The Greek Empire is a very apt description for a world empire to succeed the Persian Empire. And again, that's an element Daniel seems to accurately reflect, the succession of empires.
Even though Alexander was so powerful, so intelligent, had been trained by the greatest Grecian philosopher, none other than Aristotle. Unfortunately, it turned out that Alexander, while he could conquer kingdoms and stand on top of the world, as it were, could not seem to conquer himself.
He had conquered the world, but he wasn't able to conquer his own demons, and he died in Babylon, leaving the empire no clear successor. And 4 of his generals took over: Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus, who divided up the empire in different parts, which fits perfectly the picture that we have in Daniel chapter 8.
So, Babylon, then Medo-Persia, then Greece. Now, watch what happens with the next kingdom. Very interesting, beginning in verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. He devotes more time to this fourth kingdom than any of the other kingdoms. Okay? Now, when you look at this fourth kingdom, he says it will be extremely strong, extremely potent, extremely powerful, symbolized by iron. It will crush in pieces and break all of these other kingdoms. Okay? And that kingdom is none other than the great iron monarchy of Rome. Only one kingdom would fit.
The Roman Republic turns into the Roman Empire, and it becomes yet the greatest of all of these succession of empires yet. It's the strongest. It's depicted apparently in Daniel as the kingdom of iron, and certainly Rome, in terms of its raw strength, its wealth, its riches, its glory may not have been as great as Babylon or Persia or Greece, but in terms of raw strength, none of the previous kingdoms could surpass Rome, and so iron seems an apt description for the Roman Empire.
The Roman Empire was an empire known as a military empire, an empire known for its well-trained armies, for its tenacity, for its organization.
Known for their ferocity, known for their military strength and might, as well as a well-refined culture. Now, Jesus was alive during the time of the Roman Empire, right? Jesus was nailed to a Roman cross. Jesus was watched by Roman soldiers. Jesus stood before Pontius Pilate, a Roman governor.
And of course, crucifixion and the kinds of methods that crucifixion entailed just shows again the might of the Roman Empire and their characterization in the Bible as an empire of iron.
So you have the long legs of iron, right? The long legs of iron, representing Rome, were not conquered. Rome wasn't conquered from outside by a stronger, greater, more potent military power. Rome was divided. Well, I wonder what the prophecy says about that. Let's see what it says. Verse 41. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, look at these 5 words. The kingdom shall be divided. The kingdom shall be what? Divided. The kingdom will be divided. In other words, There will not be a conquering of this fourth iron kingdom, but the division of it. The kingdom will be divided.
And the final phase, which is not a kingdom, but it's following Rome, it's a breakup into iron and clay, which don't really mix together. So it's sort of a division of the Roman Empire.
In verse 41 it says, "Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay." So the iron continues, but it is now divided. And that's precisely what happened in this history of the Roman Empire as it moved from the domination of Rome to the division of Europe. We have a number of tribes, a number of barbaric tribes that come in and begin to cause havoc in the Roman Empire already early on, and then as time goes by, Rome as an empire loses its power.
After Rome would come a divided kingdom. It would be part clay and part iron. And they would not cleave together. They would not stick together. They would be in the form of a body part, but they would not be a single kingdom.
I mean, some of the great men in history, this has been their passion, to bring about a kind of cohesiveness, a kind of unity in Europe, and yet the Bible says it's not going to happen.
There were attempts. The story of Daniel seems to have this competing kingdom at the end of iron and clay. And it's interesting when you look at the history of Europe, you see parts of the disintegrating Holy Roman Empire remain strong. And there's different countries will at times emerge with great strength. The Franks will emerge, Charlemagne, through the Middle Ages. Different kingdoms seem to come to predominance, but none of them quite are able to hang on to power. And this has been sort of the history of Europe all the way from the disintegration of Rome through the Holy Roman Empire through the Middle Ages to the present. I suppose you could suggest Napoleon was one of the more recent examples of trying to unite Europe into one kingdom like had happened in Roman times or Greek times or Persian or Babylonian times. But he doesn't succeed. It fragments. The rest of the iron and clay join up against him and the French Empire falls.